I can record. Presumably I can record. And then I get VODs and I can upload them, or maybe I can't, I don't know. Let's listen to see if I can record. Is it recording anything? So if I stop recording, there'll be a recording while there. So there's a bit of me, and that is to be like this. Move, either move me or move the camera so that I'm, I have to be there. Apparently now I'm in the picture. And there's a picture of chess.com, and if I change chess.com's view to Lichess's view, then it's so you have to do Lichess up. I get Lichess, and then to get this one to be the live one, I do that, and you get the better view of the board. So I have both of these set up so that when the board is on, we will see the board. And now we're going to do a review of some games and see if it records. So I'm going to review two of my games which were played for the Lichess template. So let's go to my games, and we're going to find two of my games, one which I won, one which I lost in this 10 plus 5 tournaments. This was the first reviewed game. Let's go to the start of the game. So I am playing against Yu Shakan, whose rating at the time was 2081, so he's a very good player. Bit stronger than my 2043 that I was at the time, and we'll go through the game. So I have the white pieces. I play my favourite d4. Opponent plays d5. I play knight. This is my normal knight f3. He moves knights to c6. If we look at the analysis board for that, this says it's a Shikurin version of this opening. I'm not generally familiar with a knight c6 response. I tend to be more familiar with knight c6, knight f6, c5. Those tend to be the more common moves. I play my normal g6. G3 I'm looking to fianchetto the bishop and end up with a Catalan style opening. Opponent moves the other knight into play. I do my fianchetto. My opponent also does on the king's side. And so far we're still in the opening database. White castles, black brings out the bishop as expected, and now I will play my normal c4 push. And this is the opening I took. These are the first 6 moves I generally try to play when I'm white. So I'm in my familiar opening territory. My opponent captures the pawn, and I'm always happiest when my opponent takes the pawn. Because at this point I generally play quite well and know what to do. I've moved the pawn up. That is not the best move. The best move in the end, the masters play knight a3. That's the move. Aiming at this pawn here. The problem we can't. So the problem of that move hangs the pawn, and so the alternative way to win the pawn back is here, and that also prevents this move. Although that move is always bad because it opens up this diagonal. So given I'm familiar with this opening, I should be more ready to play knight a3 at various times. It often depends what white has done, if the bishop is bearing down on this or not, but this is certainly a move I need to bear in mind. There's always a question of what to do with this bishop here. So in the game I played e3, and my opponent moved his bishop to attack the knight and pin the knight. I now bring the queen here, which attacks the pawn and also defends and unpins the knight at the same time. And my opponent, we are in the Masters database, no games found. If you go back to the Lead Chess database, you'll see that in this position, knight a3 is the third most common move. e3 is less common. Knight c3 is quite a common move. e3 is a popular move with white in that position, and this is where I played e3. So I don't know why it's playing knight bd2. Here we go. Opponent there, I moved queen here, and that's the most popular move. The bishop goes back, so wasting a tempo to come and defend the pawn. And now knight b to d2 is the most popular move, but again, the pawn being on d4 now being defended, but Stockfish is saying this is inaccuracy, and it actually wants me to go queen e2, but knight a3 is again a strong move. Knight a3 prevents b5. The b5 is a bad move. Opponent castles, which it says is an inaccuracy. It says b5 was best, which is rather strange. b5 was best. I would doubt that b5 is the best move. The computer thinks that b5 is saying b5 is the good move. It surprises me, but it thinks it is. Thing about b5 here is if I try this, which looks natural to try, you can capture. If I capture the bishop, win the exchange, and then come here, I'm very weak here, so I'm being a mate threat against me, and I have to give the exchange back to defend it. I have to play f3 or something like that, or e4, and then my opponent will simply win back the exchange. So say I play e4, my opponent takes the rook and I take the knight. You can move his queen here, his bishop here. That attacks my bishop. Actually, you can't do that. Taking the rook isn't the right move here, it says. Right, taking the rook is wrong. So that's apparently the best move. And now if I try saving the rook, he comes here, and it's simply supposed to be better for black. Let's continue now with the game that was played. Knight captured on c4, and black exchanges bishop for the knight, which is an inaccuracy. It has been played a number of times, this line. Queen took on c4, and white moved to e6, and it's got white as better in the game, 1 plus 1.3. I played b3, a move played twice in this position by previous players to try to bring the bishop out to a. I want to bring the bishop out to a3, give it a diagonal where it's not blocked in. It looks therefore the natural thing to do that move. My opponent brings his queen out. And the only game previously played had queen moved back to d3, rejecting the exchange. But I played bishop a3, and now we're in a novelty position. This is the novelty for this game. Opponent moves rook to e8 to get out of the pin. To get off the attack. The engine now likes rook a to b1. I don't know why that move. Presumably to support some kind of open file if the queens are exchanged. So if rook a to b1 trades the queens, the rooks on what is now the open file. But I moved it to c1. and rook a to d8. So, and I move my knight here, which looks a good move because it has discovered attack on the queen. So I'm kind of asking my opponent to exchange the queens here. But the engine thinks that he'll just take the knight and I take back, and then he exchanges the queens and he moves his knight to the vacant d5 square. He does exchange the queens. I capture back with the knight. My opponent moves the bishop to d5 as expected, and I've lost a lot of my advantage. Here, rook comes to d1. He brings the bishop back to the diagonal to exchange, and we do indeed trade the bishop, so I'm very happy to get rid of that bishop. Apart from the fact I don't want to move it off the diagonal. I then move the pawn to b3 to stop the knight, either of the knights invading the b4 square, and possibly with the thought of pushing the b4 myself. My opponent now plays a knight back, which is and I play e4, which is an inaccuracy. I'm looking at the centre pawns, making some advance up the boards. And here my opponent has only one good move with this knight. It has to go back to f6, but my opponent plays it to the only other square which is available, which is b6, and that is marked as a blunder, and it's a blunder because if I play knight to a5, I can win this pawn, which can't be, well, you can defend it with the rook, but I don't take it. And there goes my I don't play that move. So let's see what happens if I play knight a5 and he just moves his rook to defend. Then I can take this pawn here, which is now undefended. Whereas when I play knight takes c6, he can take with this pawn and he's no longer losing a pawn. So I bring my rook to the 7th, and the engine thinks it's slightly better, marginally better for black, but he defends his pawn, which is a natural thing to do, and that seems to take away some of his advantage, or it was equal, but it's now advantage me. I push my pawn d5 is the winning move for white. I'm ready to happy to get an isolated but passed pawn on the middle of the board. Rook's in a strong position to support it. A bishop half supporting it as well. Pawn takes pawn isn't the best move, but because it opens up the e file for me, which is going to help me promote that pawn, I take back. My opponent goes to f5, and I continue marching my pawn forward, which is continuing the winning movement. It's a bit obvious, isn't it? Rook comes across here to d8 to stop the pawn. Pawn pushes one more square, all ready to get itself to the end of the board, and I've got chances of bringing my bishop in to defend that pawn on e7 later, when on d7, and then bring the other rook around to help it promote. Knight, king comes into e8, which makes sense, but it's not the best move. Apparently, move the knight here with the intention of possibly to move it there at some point and attack the rook. So there's a hanging pawn on b7 with my bishop, and of course I take it, and now I'm ready to move the bishop back to c6 and defend the pawn at some point. The knight comes in, which is the move you'd expect. He's now attacking this pawn twice, and the knight's blocking the way, but the bishop of course simply comes back here and defends the pawn. My opponent now plays f5 in accuracy, but the position's already plus 3.5 for me in this position. I'm ready to move my rook across to e1 and try to put all the pressure down on the file. I'm He's got. I'm also going to ready to try to bring my own king into the game. He plays that, and I have another pawn to take. Let's just take another pawn. Keep adding to my number of pawns. I'm 2 pawns up now. He moves that move, which I'm not sure what it does, and I'm going to bring my king into the action. Rook e1 gets into the file, and his king moves away. Now f3 to help bring my own king into the game. This move also prevents. I'm also trying to prevent him to go. Although he would lose a pawn, I'm trying to sort of prevent that move as well. But no, f3. f3 is the top choice. Yeah. His rook attacks the bishop, and the bishop comes back to give a check. His king is back. Now rook e6 would be my best move, but I actually continue to march the king in, which is reasonable. I would probably go. I want to bring the rook in soon so I can bring the king round behind it. So bring the rook to here, and then bring the king in this way, if possible, to the attack. Knight goes back. And now I see a tactic to win his knight. I can bring the rook check. He takes, I take, he takes, and I've got his knight. So I'm up a piece and a pawn. And at this point, it should be an easy convert, up a whole piece. I haven't got the passed pawn anymore, but it's won me a piece. It's won me an extra pawn as well while he was defending all that. And the rest is just a conversion. Bring the king into the action. Bring the bishop back. I'm attacking his pawn, so he defends it. I bring the king in. I let the pawn on h2 go because I'm going to march the king all the way through. If he moves. I could win another pawn here by exchanging on f4, but I don't bother. I just push. He brings his rook back to stop my king making any further progress. I give a check. I then offer the trade of rooks, and he doesn't want to do that because it's obviously a vase. He converts if I trade, so no trade. He says, apparently I've mate in 15 if I move king d6, and I don't see it, so like I'm not going to, am I? I go after the free pawn, which he defends. I go after another free pawn, which also is an inaccuracy because it's not the fastest way to checkmate him. Apparently I take the free pawn, and there's really nothing for my opponent to do here. And there we go, another pawn. Save that one, another pawn. My opponent may resign at this point. He moves the rook in, I give a check. My opponent doesn't want to resign. Apparently I'm moving makes a queen, he takes, I take, and then we play out to checkmate because my opponent doesn't like resigning. There we go. And that's the game. I don't know if this recorded this. Now I'll move on to a second game where I didn't win. So every game, I want to have one where I won and one where I lost. Let's move on to the game later against an opponent who was far stronger than me. So there's no disgrace that I lost. We're going to have a look at how I could have done better in this game. We're going... So once again, d4, d5, knight f3, and my opponent plays c5, which is the Krauss variation. And you go to the master's database. A counter c4 is often the way. e3 is a common move, which I don't want to play because I want to play g3. Nothing wrong with g3. Opponent captures. There is no rush to recapture the pawn, and I play bishop to g2. I prefer bishop to g2. The engine likes it better, and it's less common variation. I haven't counted this position before, so I sort of know that you don't need to rush to capture the pawn back. You only need to capture the pawn back once your opponent goes knight to c3, then he's threatening e5, and then you need to capture the pawn, because if he gets knight c3 and e5, obviously your opponent is now much better. So knight f6 is played, and there's still no need for me to capture the pawn, but I do capture it. And the problem is that now my opponent can play e5, and if I wait and I say I castle, and then my opponent goes knight c3, then I take on e5, and then he can play on d4. He plays e5, but now I can capture this knight, and this leads to a like reverse Grunfeld. It's like a Grunfelder's, but with white, with an extra tempo for white. And this is a very good position for white. Well, it's not a very good position, it's about equal. And this appears, called the Chandler Gambit. It appears on the Grandmasters have played this. It's on the master database. I can see Ding Liren played Caruana, and Maxim Vashinagrar played Anand on it, and Hikaru Nakamura played it. So this is a very good opening for white. It's a decent opening for white. It's what Grandmasters play. Unfortunately, in the game, I rushed to take the pawn, which isn't a great move. It has been played in the master database. e5 is played, and the knight goes back to b3, which is not what I'm familiar with putting the knight. I'd rather exchange that knight and get my c4 move in, which I haven't got in. And my opponent's got the centre, and the difference now if I go c4 is that pawn's not doing very much there. Knight c3 and c6 played. I castle, which is one of my top moves. He plays bishop to e7, and I bring my bishop out to g5, which is actually the right move. I'm always lost as to what to do with this bishop. My opponent now brings his bishop to e6, and I play knight c3, which means I haven't moved my pawn to c4, but really I can't move it at this point, and I'm in unknown territory for me. I'm not comfortable with this position at all. My opponent pushes the pawn, and my only correct move is to take on f6, but I go knight to e4. It's not the best move. Takes, I take the bishop, he takes back, I take on e4. My position is slightly worse. We are now in outside master level territory. We're still in Lichess territory. Bishop comes here. I bring the bishop back to defend, which isn't the best move apparently. Rook e1 is the move recommended. Exchanges, and he's going to castle queenside and start attacking my king, which is just what I don't want. Needless to say, castle's queenside, and now I'm going to have to defend. Possibly pawn storms on my side of the board. I should maybe counter-attack, but I'm feeling worse here. I play f3, which is, as usual, not a very good move. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm trying to do with that move, but preparing something, I don't know what I'm preparing with f3. f3 was played once in a game, and that other game, and black and white lost it as well. Queen e1 is the move which has been played other times. Queen d3 and queen d2 are the two recommended moves here. My opponent, not surprisingly, starts pushing the pawns. I get h5. I say, I don't want you to push. Unfortunately, that's not the right move, because he moves his king first, which he doesn't move his king away. I move the queen, and trying to move the queen in to defend the action. He moves his knight, attacking the pawn on c2, and my queen moves, but he moves his knight back. So he's done a manoeuvre to get his knight close to the e3 square. And I can't stop the knight getting in there, and I can't get rid of it. The only thing I can do if the knight is to make it not a fork. So I don't even prevent it. I go a3, which is really strange. He doesn't play the fork, he plays that move, so I can't take that pawn because I'll lose the queen. So taking that would be even worse. And my best, I'm already lost. I play queen d3. He's given the knight fork, and he doesn't even bother taking the rook. The knight is such a strong knight there. It's probably better than the rook anyway. His best. He continues the attack with e4. My queen is cross. I'm attacking, and he continues attacking. I move my rook, so he's not even takeable anymore. So he forked me, but he didn't even take it. He's kept the knight there, and only I have to try to do something with it. Maybe try to move this knight back here to challenge and to defend. My queen's almost out of action there, an a5, and it's not in the party. I played g4 to try to somehow. The fact this is attacking a pinned pawn. I'm not sure what g4 is going to defend it. He takes. I think now my knight's starting to come across, as it feels like it has to. He's taken another pawn. I've taken one. He's taken something, and rook comes to f4. Let's attack the pawn on e4. Is my thought, but it's an inaccuracy. I should swing my queen across to h5 while I have the chance. He's attacked the pawn, and my queen swings. He's putting queen f5 on the board as the best move. If this is the best move, what help do I have? I mean, that's just going to lose the queen. In fact, I couldn't find a good move, but I found the second best move of. I found the second. I found the second best move of rook a to f1. It hangs the rook, but I'm losing anyway. I can see that this is hopeless. He now does take this rook, and I have to take back with the rook. Well, apparently not. Apparently I should now move queen f5. And he gives a check, and I move the king, and he brings the other rook in, which isn't the best move for him. His queen h3 is actually mating in 8, but bring the queen in. I'm not sure how that. He takes, I take. He moves his queen, and then he moves his rook across. And I'm now taking a pawn. I'm down in exchange, but something he moves to g3, and I take another pawn. I'm thinking, well, maybe if he's going to get his rook takes on c2, I'm going to find a perpetual. It's my only hope. He doesn't take on c2. I'm hoping he's just going to grab a pawn, and then I'm hoping to get some kind of perpetual check going, which I don't have, but it's what I'm hoping for. I move the queen into e4 to try to get it into the defence. He brings the rook to attack the knight, and I bring my queen to g2. I want a queen trade. I'm thinking, well, he's going to have to win this game with the exchange. He takes the queen trade. He takes a check. He takes another pawn. At this point I resign because I can't see anything. My knight's locked in. My king can't move. I can't move my king here because I'm getting this fork. I can't move my knight anywhere because it's trapped. All I can do is move these puny pawns forward a couple of times and wait and wait and wait while he just marches on me. He's locked me locked up. I will see if this. My opponent, Abreshi, member since March 21st, 2020, Albanian chess team, ECF Online Rapid thingy, and he's, well, he's from Albania or is from England, we don't know. Probably a mixture of both. But he is a much better player than me. Still, I need to improve, don't I? It's only proved by playing people who beat you. Let's see if I can stop recording and